Hold on.
Oh, yep. There we are. Hi, everyone.
Hello. You are here of Into the
Hello.
Wormhole? Yes. Larissa, you want to get this party started?
Yeah, let's get this party started. Welcome to Into the Wormhole with Larissa and Lauren. I am Larissa, and this is my number one, Lauren Lowen, and we are here today to talk about Kai Wynn.
Yes. And if you haven't seen us before, I would say, Larissa, how would you describe our podcast?
Oh, yeah, you asked me to do this part. I forgot.
That's okay. That's okay.
uh, just two little nerds talking about their favorite franchise, basically. We usually choose a subject, a character, or like an overarching theme of some type to talk about, or sometimes we want to talk about the theme song for Enterprise for an entire episode. We basically just choose whatever we want and we go for it.
Which,
And we
by the
do have a
way,
oh, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say that's one of my favorite episodes is the Diane Warren Faith of the Heart episode. Yes.
Yes. If you're interested at all, that was definitely a fun one. I have a lot of thoughts about Diane Warren. Uh, anyway, we do have a series where we talk about our favorite villains in Star Trek, and I think so far we've only covered two. We talked
No.
about right Shinzon and Dukat.
And Borg Queen.
Oh yeah, and the Borg Queen.
Yeah.
So
She's
we've talked
another one of
about
my
three.
favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we, like Larissa's saying, we kind of just talk about whatever we want, but one of our formats that we'd like to do is the Star Trek villains. And our first one was Dukat, which is very appropriate for today. And one of the things that we kind of touched upon on that first segment of the villains episode of Dukat is that up until this point, you have to remember, we've had bad guys and villains, but it's usually been sort of a one of, or we've had the case where maybe they come back, but with TNG, we decided when we first started this that we have lore, but he's more faulty programming, right? And then a lot of people say, well, what about Q as a villain? And as
Don't know if he's
Larissa,
a villain.
well, you put it that he's a space asshole, and I think that's
Yeah.
right. Yes, that's more accurate. Space asshole. Um,
He's too puckish to be a villain.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Very Shakespearean in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of amazing because you get Deep Space Nine and you have a different era of Star Trek storytelling with these characters, good and bad, that we're going to sit with for 7 years. In season one, we get Dukat and we get Kai Wynn. So
Yeah.
Larissa, I'm going to hand off the baton to you.
Oh, so I think about how important this long form storytelling is to a character like Kai Wynn because you really get to know her motivations in really, really deep, real ways because we're looking at an entire culture and the world building that goes into that, and then how this one person fits into that world. And you get to see it in so many different lights, so many different perspectives. Whereas with the most famous Star Trek villain, Khan, he's got an episode of the original series and then a movie, which
Right.
which also, that's one story arc that could have been one episode or, three episode thing arc. But we don't get as much time. We don't get to spend as much time like hanging out with them and hearing them "My child, everyone" over and over again.
Yes, I'm just going to lean over and grab your ear and hope your paw is strong and hopefully our internet connection because I got disconnected last year. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
no,
I
that's
forgot.
that's very
Many
true.
times.
And I mean, that's kind of one of the amazing things is that I mean, Kai went first of all, Louise Fletcher, who is no longer with us, an amazing actress. Um, she was she was amazing in this role, and she was another character, much like Garrick, who was supposed to be a one of. She shows up in season one, and she was written into the hands of the prophets, and she stuck around because she was so good, and her character was so good. And just like Garrick, it was kind of a back and forth, and that that ability to storytell throughout those 7 years. They didn't always know what they were going to do with Kai Wynn. I'm kind of curious, like looking back at the episodes, what was your first impression of her?
Oh, she's a bitch. But like, I mean, I've heard Kai Wynn described as like a space Karen,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
but also like she's like way worse than a space Karen. You know, like she's a space Karen, but she's like a senator. You know, she's a
Right.
politician. And it's, I think for me, the most like treacherous thing about her is that she is in a job of civil service, that her whole job is supposed to be in service to the Bajoran people, and her motivations are never really, with like very tiny exceptions, they're usually mainly based in like her worldview and her thinking that she is right, and linking her whole identity to like the health of, like, if I'm healthy, Bajor's healthy, like anything that is important to me is important for Bajor, and that's not true. And
And
we
not
see
the other
so
way
many,
around.
yeah, we see
Yeah.
so many leaders in the world today walking around with this same kind of worldview. And that is like what is so terrifying about her for me, is that she is Marsha Blackburn,
Well, it's
you know.
funny in our yes, in our conversations, we keep going back to Deep Space Nine is just so relevant now. It kind of is scary because, some of these stories, just sort of transcend years and decades and centuries. It's kind of like the wheel of history that keeps going round and round. But you and I think sometimes get shocked and maybe a little depressed sometimes watching some of these episodes and going, oh my God. I think we watched, was it Past and Pretense that is that what I'm thinking of? The sanctuary districts and the Bell
Oh,
riots? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but no, I believe that too. I mean, I think I tell people that Kai is the character that I most want to punch in the face. I feel that way because if Dukat, and I feel like I kind of have to talk with Dukat with Kai Wynn a little bit because I almost feel like they are different sides of the same coin, really, in the show.
I want to hear you talk about
Um,
that.
yes. Well, to complete this thought first before I spiral over here, but if Dukat is sort of inspired and represents sort of those macro threats, the kind that are inspired by big events in history and going to go down those evils in the textbooks. Kai Wynn, not that she's any less dangerous, but to some degree, what always struck me was that it was almost like these microaggressions or micro threats, where it's like we're 2 or 3 degrees away from knowing a Kai Wynn in our real life. Like you said, whether it's government or someone on the school board or someone in your neighborhood or maybe even your family. And I think that's what really annoyed me the first time I ever saw her, was just that there are people that you just see every day who are a Kai Wynn. And their way of going about is maybe a little more subtle, a little bit more, I don't know if sneaky is the right word, but that's what I'm going to use.
Yeah, that's what makes her
Yeah.
more insidious to me, is that she's not overt. Like she rarely like visibly loses her temper, you know? I think there's
Mm-hmm.
like only a couple of times that she like really like breaks and loses it. She's always, everything she says, if you just looked at it like written on a piece of paper with no context, it's like, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but and this is like more props to Louise Fletcher and how
Right.
incredible she handles this character, that everything is like a slap in the face, but it never quite seems like it is. It is. Like, like it's like my child, people compare my child to like bless her heart, bless their
Right.
heart. It's that it like the words read like you care, but you're actually like insulting me.
Well, she,
like deeply insulting me.
yes. And I've often thought that if Andrew Robinson as Garrick is sort of the king of double talk, kind of reading between the lines, then
Mhm.
Louise Fletcher as Kai Wynn is the queen of that in Deep Space Nine. And I do think that, yeah, it's just the dance of seeing her and Cisco, or her and somebody, her and Kira, for instance, to see them kind of do that dance of, again, like talking between the lines and saying one thing, but also implying or threatening another. Kind of one of those things where she's always delivering it in a way that she can never be accused of any wrongdoing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that just sort of adds to her bite. And I think if you had the wrong actor in that role, it wouldn't hit as hard. And I think that's one of the reasons why the writers kept bringing her back in that role, because she was just so fun to watch in there.
Yeah. And so just I like it's you can't look away from her. She's so captivating. I don't know. I mean, she drives you nuts,
Yes, yes.
but
Um,
you don't but like I can't I want to just keep being mad at her. I want to just keep watching her and keep getting mad at her.
well, and I mean, she's a good villain to hate. Like they did a good job. And it's so funny because sometimes they'll surprise you. And, the writers, since they kept bringing her back, but they weren't really sure exactly where they were going with her from season to season. So, for instance, Vedic, is it Baral? I can never say his name.
Barile,
Baral, thank you.
the first boyfriend.
Yes. Yeah, I like how they're allowed to get it on in this religion.
Mhm.
But I love that he was originally supposed to be the Kai. In fact, it was always supposed to be that way when the first Opaka got stuck on that planet. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be him. And then the writers last minute decided, well, what if we had Wynn become Kai? And I think from a storytelling point, that made things obviously a lot more interesting and gave them a lot more to work with down the line. Um, but I think what's interesting too is that we had 7 years also to explore the Bajoran faith, which I know in the past, especially when we get to the end of Deep Space Nine, we talk about it gets a little bit into space magic, as you like
Yes.
to call it. But we're in
Space
the beginning.
magic.
We're not quite there yet. We're in the beginning. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that Deep Space Nine took a long look at faith with the Bajorans, but they had Kywin's just one shade of that faith.
Hmm.
That makes sense. You had Kaiopaka, you had Vedic, say his name again.
Barile.
Virile, I can't say that. Um, but the fact that you had these people who, or even like Kira, for instance, who was a character that we were very close with and respected and liked, but the fact that she was a modern example of an individual who had faith but was very progressive. So I appreciate that, they had Kai Wynn, but that wasn't the only depiction of it. And I'm really curious,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
given our past talks, like how you feel about that overall in Deep Space Nine.
I was actually thinking about this earlier today and how much I love the different, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of the spectrum of belief that is shown within the Bajoran religion, and how like interesting it is to have like they all have like a tangible real thing that they're worshiping, like we know, like in the world of the show, that the
Mhm.
wormhole aliens are real. We know that they're real. We've had interactions with them. Like there is no like, is God real or not? For them, God is real. It's just that, seeing it from different perspectives. So really, I was thinking about how in like the Bajoran religion really is like more a like they have a relationship with these living things, and the religion is like them keeping track of their interactions with these aliens, and how like that is actually like really cool. and
I want to org
and really
experience,
interesting, and yeah, right, but like
right?
that's also one of the things that makes Kaiwen so fascinating is that like she's never actually had an interaction with them. That is fascinating that she's like still so committed to this religion because she knows they're real, because everyone knows that they're real because they've seen, because it's right there, because so many of them have had experiences with the orbs and had experiences with actual interaction with them. So like her relationship with them is very fascinating because she's never actually had a real conversation with the prophets, and yet she climbs all the way through that hierarchy to get all the way to the top without having had a direct connection to them. You know? And like how many times they diss her so many times. They like refute, like when what is that episode where they like the Pa Wraith and the prophet come out and they get Kira Reckoning. And Jake are possessed. The Reckoning, yeah. How like in Kira's body, this prophet does not even make eye contact with Wynn, right? Does not even, like, she's crying at her feet, and this prophet is like, I'm just waiting for the Coast of Mojin to show up.
Right.
Wonder where.
Like, thanks, Cisco.
Like, oh, seriously. But she remains like in this place where she's like, I have all the things except for the one thing. And it's like, why does she stay for so long? She stays in there for so long. It's like the power of the hierarchical system. It's the power of like the church, you know, because like the church is not God. The church is the church. And like in this world, they know God is right there. And she's like, I'm trying to talk to you. And God's like, no.
Yeah. And she's like, I didn't feel anything. And it's weird because
that's a powerful moment. Yeah.
There are times that in the show, and I read that the writers, you know, did try to give her moments where you kind of felt sympathy for her, or you felt like she might redeem herself. That's one that hits hard, is in Reckoning, when, you know, she's literally trying to talk to a possessed Kira, and you're like you said, she gets nothing. And then you know, I don't want to get too far into her strange bedfellows with Dukat, but
you know, we
again,
have to though.
Well, we are. It's just like it's 6, you know, for at least in Nashville, it's 6:20. It's like we got to pace ourselves a little bit. But no, see, this goes back again to, you know, she ends up with Dukat. And it's so fitting because one of the things that we talked about with Dukat in the beginning of the villain series is every villain has a motivation. And again, she and Dukat are pretty much, you know, same coin, different sides, in the fact that at the end of the day, they want power.
You didn't even really
power, and they do want to be adored, you know. And we talked about how like Ducat's just, and also you mentioned that like the criteria of a good Star Trek villain is that they can convince themselves that what they're doing is right and for the good of others or their planet or whatnot. And that's a very dangerous thing, again, in real life too. I think that's one of the reasons why it makes these characters so delicious to watch. So, you know, Dukat kind of has the same mission statement too. Like he too wants power, but he just wants to be loved, you know, whether it's by women or the Bajorans or
Bajoran women.
Or Bajoran women, yes. And so Kai's very much the same way. It's funny because Dukat, I feel like his direction is more kind of like internal. He just has this illusion that he's like, man, if I wasn't there, there would be so many more depths. You Bajoran should be happy I was there, you know.
Well, his faith is in himself.
His
faith is in himself, and that he is right and he's righteous. You know, like he does not, that never wavers really for him.
Right.
You know, like he's like, if everyone else would just do what I say, everything would be fine. Why are they fighting with me? I know what's the right decision. And Kai Wynn has that too, but she's backing it up with her religion though.
Her shield is a lot more external, I would say. If Dukat's like, I feel like it's all in his mind, and you know, Kai is behind a very respected shield where it's like she's the Kai and it's the Bajoran faith and the prophets. So but yeah, it's like for her, it's just her flaws is that she wants power, she wants validation. This is the ladder she's going to climb. It just happens to be, like you said, a, you know, religious the church in this case.
Yeah.
The
Well, and
Bajoran faith.
also I've been thinking too about how like and DS9 does really talk about this um several times over in during the course of the series, but the fact that like the whole Bajoran people, like everyone has PTSD, like the whole everyone has
Right,
CPTSD,
right.
and they're all handling it in completely different ways. And watching like the way that like that I'm remembering that one conversation that Kai Wynn was she a Vedic, I think maybe I can't remember, she and Kira talking about like what they did during the occupation, and
Yes,
she's
she's the
like
Kai at that point. Yeah,
okay, and she's
yeah.
like you revolutionaries are all the same, you think that you were the only people that made any sacrifices during the war years, during the occupation years. And she was like I was in a fucking internment camp, and I was tortured every time I participated in my religion or led
Mhm.
like prayer. And that was also part of the resistance too. So sometimes she says shit like that, and I'm like, yes, you are correct. You
Yeah,
are
and
correct about that.
that would be, I think, the writer says that that's the most potent moment they felt like for Kai Wen that they wrote for her, where not so much she could be redeemed, but that you kind of for a second put aside your hate for her, and she seemed, for lack of a better word, more human, more Bajoran. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
she says, I remember every beating that I got, and I didn't have any guns to protect me. And
Oh yeah, only
it's
my
kind of
faith.
like, yeah, it's like, damn.
Yeah. But when
She
it's
kind
coming from
of,
her and the way that she says it, she's like, she is still saying, I am one up from you. It was I didn't have a gun to protect me. You know, she's still saying, like, my sacrifice was greater than yours, you
yeah,
know?
that's a good point. That's a good point. She's still
But
trying to,
but if she was a different person and she still said that same thing with that same job and all that stuff, it's still like it's still true that there are lots of different ways to participate in resistance. This is something that we're all kind of like experiencing right now in the world, like how to participate in resistance and what different ways are actually useful. And that is one of them, participating in like continuing to participate in your culture when you're being occupied and like told that you're less
persecuted.
than. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a survival, that's survival, that's like important to
Mhm.
keep your culture alive. So when I think, sometimes I think about Kai Wynn and I'm like, but she did like, but she is still, she does still make choices that are about Bajor, and she still loves Bajor. I think that's the thing that saves her at the end from like, you know, when she like comes back and she's like, nah, that's like the thing. She like figures out that it's not about
Nah.
the prophets.
Sorry.
You know
Yeah,
what I
no,
mean?
yeah, I mean, I think
Figures out that,
ultimately
yeah,
a little too late, she realizes that it's like, oh God, fucked up.
yeah.
Um,
She realizes it's not a competition like at the end, and then she dies
at the
right
very
after
end,
she realizes it.
yeah, I feel like this is a good segue into Kai. She's, power hungry, becomes Kai, and obviously she's, battling it out with Cisco, always has a lot of resentment towards Cisco, considering this outsider was chosen as the emissary.
And I
Um,
totally get that too. I'm
we've
like, I
had
get it.
conversations, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, going back to Ducat, he's the one who he has his own personal journey with realizing that the story he's been telling himself about being there for the Bajorans and just wanting to take care of them. He's like, I hate them. That's Waltz, which is a really good episode. And he just
Yeah.
realizes he is like, what have I been doing? I'm going to destroy them like the
He
cockroaches they
realizes
are.
he has no emotional awareness at all, and probably several psychological.
And
What is it?
right.
He's like narcissism for sure.
And he becomes, as you put it, he becomes a grifter because he's sort of banished by the
Yeah.
Cardassians.
But he's also
And
always been a grifter though.
he has, yes, but he is way gone there. Um,
But he grifts
and
the crap out of Kyle.
and how appropriate. I mean, really, to think that the writers didn't know what was going to happen with Kywin or Ducat, and the fact that they ended up together. They kind
Yeah.
of had that realization of like, wouldn't it be great if we could have them sleep together? And they're like, well, why not? And so, yeah, like the final arc of Deep Space Nine, we get that Dukat teams up with the Pod Race, which are the evil forms of the prophet aliens, and needs Kai Wynn to fully release them because she's the Kai and only she has the power. So we get this amazing relationship at the end between these two characters who are in a way like made for each other with their self-deception and greed.
I do have to say though that rewatching those episodes, every time I do, I'm like, how do you not know that's not
Dukat?
How do you not know? Like, listen, like I could not. I don't have any like real mortal enemies, but I'm pretty sure that if I did, I'm not sure that I could sleep with a mortal enemy or with a person who reminded me of a mortal enemy. You know what I mean? And this guy is the same shape as Gul Dukat, like his neck is the same shape. He is the neck. We've talked about Marco Imo's neck.
Yes.
Before.
Yeah.
I think thousands of people have probably discussed his neck.
Mm-hmm.
But like
insurance policy
sounds just like him.
Sobor knew it.
Like Sobor knew it. I'm just like, how? I'm like, bless her heart. I'm like, bless her heart at Kai Wynn. I'm like, bless her heart for not knowing that was Dukat. Oh,
it's been rough. It's been a long time. She was just kind of willing to overlook some things, but but they literally end up together. And then end up working together, and their sort of tangling and mutual downfall is so appropriate.
It really is, and I think it's. I remember the first time I watched the end of DS9, and I was so like, what? I remember being like, what? But the more I go back to it, like the more I see like these just gems of moments left and right that were just so satisfying and so like beautifully like written. It did ramp up pretty fast and then end pretty quickly.
It does.
Which is a little annoying, but it is so satisfying to see like people receive consequences for their actions.
Mm-hmm. And it's very poetic.
We did receive that. We did receive some closure on those villains. And I think especially I am glad that she gets a little redemption, even though she just dies immediately after and is just vaporized.
Right. Very.
Yeah, she does with her last breath fight for Bajor, which she always was convinced she was doing the whole time.
Right. And it's like the one time she actually is. She's putting her well-being at risk.
Yes.
And it's kind of like you said, if she's good, then Bajor's good. This is the one time that she thinks if Bajor's good, I'm good. And she does the one trope where she kind of announces what she's going to do. They're in the fire pits, and she has
she wants everyone to know she's going to do it.
Right. Sisko and Dukat are literally kind of having their moment, and she could just very quietly grab the book and toss it and not let anyone know, but she's going to announce what she's doing.
You could literally just kick it over the edge with your toe.
And of course, like Larissa says, Dukat puts her in a flame ball. We've actually talked about that, I think, in a couple episodes, how the buildup is fun. It really is like the very last episode. I mean, the Dominion is gone.
There's so much fucking going on in the last episode.
They're in Vix. They're in Vix in the holodeck, and they're having this moment where they're all saying like to The Way You Look Tonight, and it's like the sweeping where they're going through all the actors, and it's so, and you kind of think it's it, and then it's like, hey, remember the fire caves? We have Kai Wynn and Dukat. and I love it because he's just dancing. Sisko's dancing with Cassidy Yates, and he's like, I remember I know what I'm supposed to do. Hold on. It's almost like he's talking to the audience. Like, wait, we have this thing we need to do. We got to wrap this up. And we've kind of joked about this. And when you're watching it, and I think you're swept up and everything, it feels satisfying. When you go back and you have a little more time to digest, it does seem a little funny. That's like, oh, okay. I have to go push the cot in the fire pit.
The transition is a little bit intense.
Sudden?
Yeah. Sudden. Yes. for sure.
But it's still fun to go back and watch. Yeah.
It is. It really is. That the last season of DS9 is especially for me really fun to go back and watch. There's so much fucking going on, man.
So
Wow.
what are your given that we have maybe 20, 25 minutes, which for us is not that long. We tend to go
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Oh,
I'm curious.
favorite moments, favorite episodes.
Yes, I'm curious.
Which of the two
What are
hats is your favorite?
Sydney Opera House
Or the like
the Renaissance? Yeah.
it sort of looks like carpet or like drape material. Like it, you know what I
It
mean?
is
Like it looks like
upholstery fabric.
upholstery fabric.
It
Yeah.
is. I
Yeah.
mean,
With the
I'm
like down
yes.
this. Yeah.
It is. I love reading about the
Love it.
costumes, and a lot of
I
those
love
costumes
it.
for Kaiwen and Garrick and so forth was like heavy upholstery fabric. It was very heavy and limiting for them to wear it. And
Oh my
it's
God.
funny because Louise Fletcher, when she went from being just a Vedic with that, again, the Sydney Opera House hat.
The pointy one.
Yes. Her makeup and costume time went up 2 hours when she became Kai, because in the first
Her
outfit,
Kai outfit looks so much more casual to me.
her hair isn't exposed. So she could just put it back and then they put the hat on. But since she had to actually, if you watch, it's in these elaborate braids and buns and everything. That added a lot of
Yeah.
time. But yeah, I'm curious what some of your favorite moments or episodes, like which ones would you recommend people go back to?
Oh my God. Okay. Life support. That's the one where they're
Yes.
in that accident. Bareil gets mortally wounded, and she like forces doesn't force because he wants to, but like she gives him, she like guides him into like using the last moments of his life to like get this treaty signed with
Right.
Cardassia, and it's like, yeah, I understand. Like, yes, but like, no, it's very it's she's so evil in that episode. She does not care. Like, and she makes this she does this several times where she's like, I guess that's just what's gonna happen then, because that's what the prophets want. Like she says that to like the girl that like tries to kill Bareil in the hands of the prophets. She's like, I guess you're just gonna have to die then, or I guess you're just gonna have to get arrested.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what the prophets want. It's amazing
but we
how
gotta do
convenient
it.
that is.
Yeah, she is so willing to sacrifice other people's shit left and right and just be like, sorry, but unable to do that for her with her own things, with her own body, with her own life.
Right. One thing I
That
will say,
episode is it's so ouches. It ouches so deeply.
one thing I will say about life support, which is so nice, is that it starts off and you kind of feel like, just like Cisco presents it, you feel like Kai maybe has turned a new page in her book. She's
Yeah.
talking about how she has been working kind of behind the scenes to help Baral with this peace treaty, and they've been doing all this stuff, and now she kind of has to tell Cisco, kind of let him in on all of it, and he's shocked and like, I'm sorry, but you're the last one I thought would actually be doing something like this. And she admits that a lot of it is him, and so she's put in a position where she has to handle these treaties, and she can't do it without Baral, and keeps pushing the limits of Bashir actually keeping him alive, and a lot of questionable things when it comes to what's
Replacing
really
half of his brain.
right. It's a fun, honestly, I loved that episode just from a sci-fi premise.
Yeah, can't you just replace the other half? She literally
Yeah.
in the episode is like, can't you just replace the other half too? Wouldn't that be
Yes.
fine? Didn't you do
And
that already?
And I guess for the record, Louise Fletcher thought that line was hilarious. It took her many times to be able to say that line of like, well, you replace his internal organs. Can you do that with his brain? And
His brain.
she just thought it was hilarious. But
Because it is hilarious.
Yeah. And people start to realize that the only reason she seems so concerned, I can do this because there's video, is because they realize if this treaty fails, she's going to be the one to blame. And once she has what she needs from him and he's a goner, she's like, I think
let him go, child.
Let him go.
I think the prophets are calling him home.
Let him go. He's done enough. And it's just such a great
terrible.
turn. Yeah.
so terrible. She's so terrible.
Oh,
Oh, so
do you,
awful.
should I give you mine?
Oh yeah. I
Um,
mean, I have so many. There's so
oh
many,
gosh. Okay.
you
Well,
know?
yeah.
Like the her entire first episode is just like she's deliciously
Are we,
evil,
well, I'm double
you
checking
know?
the name of that because I feel like
In the hands of the prophets.
it is in the hands of the prophets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is season one.
Yeah.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that episode too. Do you want to, what were your things you were going to bring up?
Oh, just it's got so many like beautiful Kai Wynn talk down moments,
Oh, yeah.
you know, where she's like, but that's not what you're teaching. Like she comes in when she comes in the classroom and she and Keiko have that first conversation
Mm-hmm.
when she's like,
Confrontation.
she my child's Keiko in front of the class, I think. You know?
Her special
Keiko's like,
attack.
this is my classroom. Like, what are you doing here?
Yes.
Just
I,
perfectly worded, politically minded, like thoughtful jabbies. Like that intro, like you're like, we're gonna be in with some for some fun with this character. Like
yeah,
she's gonna be pissing people off. Hopefully, the rest of the series.
which she did.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, again, that
but also
episode,
she's a terrorist.
she, she came in, Louise Fletcher came in, and they didn't really expect to have Kai Wen back. I mean, back then she wasn't the Kai. So she comes in and it is, yeah, Keiko's teaching. It's great because that episode was just supposed it's a hard hitter because that was supposed to be her episode. You know, season one, we have this character, they brought her back, but that one's just so potent with Win moments. And
Mhm.
I, looking back, I really respected the show. They had some really intelligent adult conversations, not just between Keiko and Win, but Ben and Jake, which I
Oh
really like.
yeah.
Just to go back to Keiko real quick.
That's one of the first like really like gorgeous Ben and Jake moments is when they're discussing her.
Right, because Jake is, of course, like, this is silly. I don't get it. Why do the Bajoran people, worship these aliens? Is this? That's
Yeah.
stupid. And Ben quietly very mentions that this faith got them through like all these years of being occupied by the Cardassians, and it's not stupid. And he's saying if
Yeah.
you come in hating on it just as strong, you're no better than Kaiwan or the people you're fighting. You're just on the other side. And it's like, bravo, that's a very intelligent conversation to have. And I think with the other one, I teach, so as a teacher I really appreciated this, but I thought another moment in that episode that was very smart was Keiko and Win talking. And it's one of the it's not that interaction you're discussing, but one further in the episode where Win is trying to compromise, and she's like, oh, just don't teach about the wormhole, that's all, like it's all good. And
Yeah, it's just outside the window. Don't ever talk about it.
never talk about it. And Keiko brings up a fact. She's like, well, what happens when we start to talk about evolution or these other things? And Kai just says, well, but you know what? We'll just get to that when we get to it. And Keiko says no, but I thought that was a wonderful conversation that illustrates the weight of the threat of Win, about this is a very slippery slope. And if you start taking
Mhm.
steps down that road, you're going to end
She's
up
a
in a
school
place.
board mom that wants to ban books for sure. Like yeah.
Yeah. It's like that. Yeah. So that was another moment that I, being an educator myself, like zoomed in on. Yeah. And so for me,
Yeah.
that's a great episode with her. It's her first appearance, and you can't go wrong with that episode.
Oh God, that one is so good. That one is that's like the Kai Wynn episode that I remember the most viscerally, like when I think
Mm-hmm.
about it.
And it might be, honestly, it might be one of my favorite season one episodes.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I rewatched The Collaborator too. It's the one where she gets Bareil
Yes.
to leave the race or
Mm-hmm.
to like rescind his nomination for Kai, and she wins. She wins the vote, and it's like all because he's protecting something that Opaka did and just like seeing their, like, she's willing to tear somebody to shreds to get what she wants, and he is willing to sacrifice himself for the the reputation of a very important, like, positive, mainly positive
Right.
figure. In, like, he's willing to, like, to not get the things that he wants and sacrifice in order to, like, protect someone that he cares about deeply. And
Yes.
she doesn't have those kinds of relationships with anyone. So, like, she doesn't really understand what happened, you know? Like, I
Well,
don't, you know?
well, and also I mean, going back to her relationship to Bajor. I mean, that's what it is. Bra, um,
That,
Bra had a good
right.
relationship with Opaka, but his relationship to Bajor is very much putting Bajor first. So he knows if Opaka's reputation has a chance to get warped or tarnished, then that hurts the Bajoran people. And that's going to
Yeah.
hurt a lot of things, like the strength of the people going forward. So he knows that's more important than him becoming Kai.
Yeah. Which is
So
also the reason
he,
why she's able to manipulate him while he's dying.
right, yeah. And but Kai, again, like, does not have, you're right, that relationship with anyone, but especially Bajor. It's just her. Yeah.
Yeah. She is totally isolated because she's not really looking at her job as being a community leader or being a part of a community. She doesn't see herself as in it. She sees herself as above it, and she's supposed to be in charge of it, you know, and as opposed to, like, I am of Bajor, you know, like
Oh
the thing
yeah.
that they
I
say
mean,
to Cisco all the time.
when she's looking at the book for the Paul race, I forget what it's called, but they're talking
Oh
about how,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of people, yeah, oh, I think it's Dukai. He's actually like, hey, don't talk about blood on my hands. When you do this, a lot of Bajor is gonna go up in flames and you have a lot of blood on your hands. And she's like, not my problem. The prophets will deem those worthy, and then the others can just kind of meh. So yeah, that shows you her attitude
Yeah,
about that. Do we have
yeah.
anything in the live chat? I'm
Oh,
curious. Anything?
I I'm sorry. I've been looking around occasionally and haven't seen have it's hard for me to keep track of it.
No, I'm sorry. We don't
Hi,
have
I have
this.
ADHD.
Yeah.
I have trouble with keeping track of things.
This is
Um,
new. We don't really have this on our podcast. So
yeah. I actually was interested in talking about what is that? What is the episode where they get where Kira and Jake are the Powraith and
the reckoning, yeah.
Reckoning. That episode, I felt like more on Kai Wynn's side than I ever have in any other episode I've seen her in that I can remember. And it's because Cisco takes that relic from Bajor to bring to Deep Space
Hmm.
Nine to, like, study it. And she's like, "Excuse me, sir. Did you just come down here and take something from that was just discovered on our planet and take it with, and are you serious?" And there's a moment where, like, she keeps bugging him. She, like, literally, like, finds out and comes directly to the station, and everyone's like, "Ugh, Kai Wynn, oh my god." And I'm like, actually, you did not ask permission, and that's not cool, you know? Like, please calm down, sir. Like, she is actually doing her job right now. Like, if her job is to protect Bajor and protect, like, especially religious sites and things like that, then, like, you should have asked her. You actually should have asked her, and you did not do a good job.
Well, they make a point to say, much like in history too, and this is something we're still dealing with, is that there have been times where other people just kind of pluck things out and take it over here. So she's saying, like, hey, the Cardassians just felt like they could take whatever they want, and
Yeah,
this is
she
this is
compares
not
the
exactly,
Federation to a
yeah.
colonizing force, which they sort of are in many ways. And that's something that we've
Mhm.
talked about in the past. That, like, why do you think that you don't have to go through the proper channels to, like, sign out this book? You know what I mean? Like, why do you get Why do
sign out
you
the
get
book.
special treatment, bro? Like, yeah, you're the emissary and it says emissary on it, but like she actually brings up like we have scholars that like have been studying ancient Bajoran artifacts for their entire careers, and you would rather bring it back here to scan it with your computers? Like, fuck you, dude. Like I've that episode, I was like, I feel you, Kaiwan. You are right.
Well,
You're right about this.
yeah, and that is
Like that feels like some colonizer shit.
yeah, and that is the episode that
hmm
the writers felt like if they wanted you to feel like Hywin is, that gray area, that was
hmm
definitely one of those issues where,
Yeah.
or, I'm sorry, not issues, episodes where they wanted your feelings towards Kywin to be a little muddled.
Yeah.
Feel bad for her when the prophets don't speak to her and she's literally begging. I feel like she really wants to help in some way and she can't. It's like the one time in Reckoning where the Bajoran faith is a very important element of that episode, and she's basically begging for the prophets to talk to her, and she wants to be a part of it, and she wants to help Cisco, and she feels genuine. That's probably the episode where she feels the most genuine, and it just
And
it
then she
doesn't
has a
work
little
out for
temper
her,
tantrum.
right? And it kind of that is I think season 6. So that's like getting us towards the setup of they weren't quite sure what they were going to do for in season 7. And they decided to kind of make her this tragic character. But it sort of sets up this idea that she just gets so frustrated by the end of Deep Space Nine that the prophets have just never thrown her a bone, so to speak. Yeah. And
Yeah.
she's like,
Yeah.
why should I step down as Kai
Oh God, that
when,
conversation, that's one of my favorites also when she goes to
right.
Kira and she's like, I've fucked up. The prophets have shut me out. And Kira's like, you should resign. And she's like, why?
Yeah. They
She's like,
don't
I
need
want to change.
me.
She even says like, I want to change so badly. And then Kira's like, it will come when you after you step down. And she's like, but I work so hard.
And again, Bajor
It's like,
needs me.
well,
And it's like,
there's
no, you
yeah,
need this. And that's what it comes down
yeah.
to.
And like there it is that like you like that there is that like Bajor is never first until the last moment, even though she still wants to announce. I'm never going to stop laughing about that. How she has to announce that she's going to destroy the book before she do. Like, I'm never going to get over that. I think. Like,
Well, it looks like
it's
we
so
have,
in character.
right, right. So it looks like we have our 5-minute heads up.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh my
really,
God, this has been so much fun. We haven't recorded an episode in a while because we've both been so busy. So this has been really fun.
yeah. Well, okay. So maybe we should use this to kind of say where you can find us.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and yeah, and all that. We do, I hope you don't mind if I mention it and kind of give a little spoiler. Our next episode that we will
We've been
we've been working on for quite a while, but it's recorded. It's another villains episode, and we were talking about Khan. So
yes.
I'm
Yes.
very excited about that.
Yeah. And maybe we'll talk about Wind some more at some point.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it'll happen. She always has a tendency to come back and annoy us. We are produced by We Own This Town of Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah,
You
you can
can,
find us at intothewormhole.show. All of our episodes are up there, and we're also on uh I think it's like Apple Podcasts and all those other places that you can get podcasts, Spotify and all that stuff.
yeah.
And we
And
have a
if
backlog of lots of episodes that you can
we
listen
do,
to.
and you can also, if you want to follow us on Instagram, that's probably the only place we are on social media. It's Into the Wormhole podcast, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're there posting just mainly silly things, but yeah, if we have any news or new episodes, you can follow us there and kind of, be informed and everything.
Maybe I'll
So
get back into memeing. I
yeah,
was like really into making Star Trek memes for a while, especially
um,
during the pandemic. I was like just making Star Trek memes all the time.
so you got through it.
That's
Um,
part of how I got through it. Yeah. It's true. It's true.
so we want to
Maybe.
extend a huge thank you, right? I feel like we should take, yeah, a huge
Yay.
thank you for just everyone involved with Virtual TrekCon for inviting us back this year to have a longer discussion and panel with you guys.
Thank you,
And
Melissa. Thank you, Anne Marie.
yes, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you'll kind of yeah, follow us down the wormhole a little bit more in the future.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun talking about this and this stuff, and we're always like so excited to do things like this where we get to just get on. And I'm looking at some of your comments now too, and people are like, "Oh, Louise Fletcher, she's amazing." And I'm like, "Yes,
Yes.
oh,
Mhm.
Academy Award winner Louise
Yes.
Fletcher for best actress, right? Was it?
I mean, it
Yeah,
was Nurse Ratchet, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But Nurse Ratched is considered a leading
I
role,
don't know if
right?
it would be.
I don't know. I don't remember.
She seems very double talkish, I feel like. Yeah.
Oh God, she's so excellent at like playing villains. Oh, I also watched you remember those episodes of The Circle?
I did too.
The Circle with Frank Langella.
Oh
I
yeah.
was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
there is
yeah.
too much like perfectly cast villain energy in this episode for me. I'm gonna explode.
Yes. So there'll be plenty of villains episodes in the future. And yeah, other ones. So all right. I actually don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. I'm just gonna look at your beautiful face, I guess. But I think
I can thank my friend Lauren Morrow for giving me this shirt. I always bring at least one Star Trek shirt with me on tour.